Hi guys, and welcome back to another IBRACORP video. Thanks for tuning in with us today. Welcome back to our regular subscribers, and if you haven't subscribed yet, hey, why not subscribe? Really helps the channel out, and we like to share a lot of information here, whether it's related to your Unraid setup or any other operating system that might be using Docker, any of the applications that we host. Just be sure to follow us, and hopefully we've got a lot more to share with you in future. So on today's episode of Let's Install, our new series, we're going to be looking at Organizer. So today we're going to go through installing that on Unraid using our Docker container. But you can apply this to anywhere else where you might be using Docker, or you can installing it natively. I believe it has several different options, but today we're going with the Docker container option. So without further ado, let's get stuck into it. Organizer at the top level is a bookmark and iframe system. It allows you to have multiple different websites, links, services under one roof and be able to view them through iframes where iframe is supported. So for example, in this screenshot, we're on their main website at the moment, organiser.app. You can see that it gives you a bunch of bookmarks on the left hand side that you set up, also known as tabs. And that will open up those particular links within the actual iframe of Organizer. Now, some links don't support iframe. You might have to do a custom configuration in your NGINX to get it to work, or it may not support it at all. In those cases, you can set it to open in a new tab, but it still allows you to have the bookmark in one area, which is a lot quicker, obviously, for getting around. I'll scroll down a little further, and you can see that it comes with a lot of built-in integrations, so Plex, MB, your Sonar and Radar, and others. Plenty more in there as well. If you come down, we'll look at their official description here. So it aims to be your one-stop shop for your service front end. You have quite a bit of services running on your computer or server, this is probably the product for you. You can see back on their website here, we've got a couple of notes against the product. That it's secure, so you can really customize it with your NGINX, Caddy and Traefik setups if you like. So that single sign-on is possible. Now in today's video, we're going to be covering how to do that with LDAP. So in our previous video, we showed you how to set up FreeIPA. Today, we're going to show you how to now implement that integration so that Organizer uses your FreeIPA user to log in. It's customizable and it's responsive. So great, so you can use it across different devices. I've been using it for years, guys. It's been a really helpful application, and a big props to CauseFX, which is the developer. You know, he's done a lot of work over the past few years, so I'm more than happy to give this some exposure today on our video. There's a couple of other notes. All of this is nice, but it will make a lot more sense once we actually install it, and I get to show you what it looks like. So let's go to the install. So we're back in our Unraid server now, Pumba. And I've stripped it of everything that was in here just so you've got a nice bare system to look at. We've only set up one Docker container, which is Overseer, our request system for Plex, and our NGINX Proxy Manager. Already videos on that, go check them out if you're interested, and it'll help you have a base to start off. In our VMs tab, we've also got our FreeIPA server, which is running on this IP address. So again, I've done a video on that just before this one, on setting up FreeIPA. Highly recommend you follow that if you're interested in setting up your own LDAP server, purely because we'll be using LDAP now in Organizer. You can have your users managed centrally somewhere else. So step one, let's get the Organizer Docker container. You see we've got an upgrade here. We'll always upgrade our app store. Always a great idea. Click done. No time at all. So now, just type in Organizer, you'll get Organizer v2, that is the one we want. Click to install. Now, by default, there's not many settings you have to change, guys. So I'm pretty happy with a lot of this, but I'll walk you through it. So our network type, in our previous videos, we've used our IBRA proxy network. We want the master branch. You can also pick the development branch if you wish. I like to leave it at master, it just keeps things stable. And the web UI. Now, by default in the actual app, it's mapping to 80. We want to map it to a different port. And I know that this is a bare system, but I'll show you a little trick. If you have a lot of Docker containers, you can't really keep track. Under Docker allocations here, Unraid will actually tell you what container ports are being used. And if you have a huge list, just press Ctrl F and type in the port number that you're trying to check for. And as you can see, 280 doesn't exist. So I should be safe to just put 280 here. Click apply, and that'll install it. There you go, pretty quick. Go back to our Docker tab, and you'll now see that Organizer is running. If we left click and hit on web UI, and there you go. So it'll take you through the wizard at first, which is what we want. So now that we're looking at the wizard, it's going to ask you to choose an install type. Now I can tell you the first time I ever installed this, I picked business. Do not pick that unless you are running a business version of this, or you need a business version of this. Make sure you're supporting the developer. You're only using it for personal use if it's for personal use, because it leaves everything unlocked. So we're going to pick personal and then click next. Now it's going to ask you to create an administrator account for the program. So we'll say admin, email address, and a password. Then it's going to ask you to put a hash key in here. Now this is a key that you actually make up yourself, and you put it in here so that you can recover and decrypt all passwords, just like it says there. So we can make our own hash key, but you need to make sure that you save it somewhere. In my case, I'm just going to call it a bunch of different characters. You can use anything you like, just a string of characters, guys. It doesn't have to be anything special, but make sure you save it somewhere. Then you have your registration password. Now this will lock out the registration field. I'll walk you through that later, but we'll just put one in here. And the API key is automatically generated. We can just leave that as it is. Click next. So now it'll ask you for a database name and a location for it to save. Now it gives you a suggested directory and the current directory. So in our case, we'll copy this and paste it in the database location. We're happy with that. Database name, doesn't matter. You can just call it orgdb. Click test, and it's happy with that. So click next. Now with all that set, you can review all your settings. I highly recommend you do. Just make sure it all looks correct, and then click finish. There you go. So that's the initial setup done. Before we do anything else, the first thing you should do, and as you can see, it already puts us on the system settings tab, is go through system settings. The reason is most of the stuff that you set up in here will be used elsewhere in Organizer, so it saves you having to type it in twice. If you enter it here and it needs it elsewhere, it'll just pull it from this area. So let's go to main, and we'll start with here. So the branch, we're happy with master. We don't need to do anything there. API again, auto generated. We don't need to do anything there. Authentication. So if you followed our FreeIPA video and you've set up your FreeIPA server, you'll need to create a user. And let's say that user needs to be able to access Organizer. Well, in authentication, you have two options. You can use the Organizer database to store your users. For example, the admin user we're logged in as at the moment, which means you'll have to manage them inside of Organizer. You can have it use the Organizer database plus a backend, or just a backend. So if I click Organizer plus backend, the backend options you're given are Plex, LDAP, FTP, MB Local, Jellyfin, MB Connect, and MB All. So let's click on LDAP. Now a lot of people want this information. This is the golden information here, guys. It took me a lot of time to figure this out myself, but now that I've got it all myself, I'll make it a lot easier for you to hook up to your LDAP server on FreeIPA. So all these fields are basically filters and how it finds users within your database and connects to it. So for us, for example, I know my server is this here. So I'll need to put this address and this port. 389 is the non-secure HTTP port for LDAP communication. For the host base DN, I'm copying this from my live environment at the moment, but you guys will need to modify it. I'll walk you through what's being said here. This initial part doesn't need to change. You need to change your domain names. Okay, so in my case, for this domain that we've set up for our YouTube videos, it's IBRACORP.org. So IBRACORP goes here, org goes here. All right, yours might be example.com. This would be example.com. All right, make sure you update that. Backend type. You have the option to pick from Active Directory, Open LDAP, or First IPA. Now, I'm not sure if that's just a typo, but I believe it's FreeIPA. Make sure you select that as well. The filters I'm giving you won't work, or most likely won't work for any of these other options, because it's designed to use a FreeIPA database and navigate that. There's a little extra note for you. So account prefix is just that. And as you can see, it will start to build the filter, the search filter, using these next few fields. Account suffix is this. I'll put this all down in the description, guys, but make sure you follow it exactly. You see there's a comma there. It starts with a comma, then it continues along. Remembering to change all this information as you go. Your bind username. Paste that in. Now this one, worth noting, that I've entered the admin user account that we created when we set up FreeIPA. If you don't want to use the admin account, you need to create a user that has enough privileges to read and write from your LDAP server. That's like a whole topic in and of itself, so I'm not going to cover that. So if you want to make it easy for yourself, just to try it out, use the admin credentials and then change it later. It is best practice, of course, to have a dedicated user account for reading from LDAP servers. So we're just going to use the admin credentials. Got our password. We're not going to enable SSL because we did not enable SSL on our FreeIPA server. And that should be everything we need. Now, if you've done this all correctly, we can click save. Make sure you save. Then test the connection. See if you get a response. There we go. So we've got a response. That's good news. Let's test the login. So if I was to put the admin credentials that we believe they are, again, our response is looking good. Now let's go back to FreeIPA for a second and we'll find a user that we can log in with. So here I am on our FreeIPA server that we set up in our last video. I'm logging in as our administrator. And in the video, we also created the test user at the time. I'll just click on test here. I've already reset their password, okay? When you first create an account, guys, or you reset their password using the actions reset password option here, you need to know that by default, FreeIPA will set an immediate expiration on the password, which means that person needs to come to this URL, to the IPA server, unless you've set up a portal to manage this, and they will need to sign in. Once they sign in, it will ask them to change their password. Now this is a default security setting because it basically means that the administrator or the person who's resetting passwords, for example on a help desk, shouldn't really know your last password. They should know a temporary one that they've given you, and then you need to change it. So make sure you change it here before you go try logging in anywhere else, because it will be expired. So we've set up our user, we've called him test, we haven't done anything special. If you need me to show that to you, I'll show you real quick. So we've logged in, you simply click add, create a user login, their name, pick a group ID if you find it's relevant, and create a password. Once you've added them, log in as that user in FreeIPA to make sure they've got a fully set password. So now that we have a fully set password, we can go ahead and test this. So what I'm going to do is open a new private window. And now that I've opened the new private window, we can use this as our testing bed. So put the username as test and the password that you set in FreeIPA and click login. Now you'll find that it reloads the page, but it tells you down here that the login was successful. I'm not sure if this is a bug. It might be ironed out in a future update with Organizer, but pretty straightforward. What it's done is actually it's created the account, and now you have to log in again a second time just to actually log in. So I won't do this every time, just the first time. So we'll sign in again and hit login. And there you go. So we're actually logged in as a user that's being pulled from our FreeIPA server. So we're going to leave that there and we'll go back to our administrator account in Organizer. And we're pretty happy with that. If I was to go to user management, you'll see our users there now, and it's pulled all this information directly from FreeIPA, which is fantastic. So the email address, you set that in FreeIPA and it will pull it into here. So very important that you set that in FreeIPA correctly. The benefit of it, of course, guys, is that all the information is managed in one place, which is FreeIPA, and it's pulled out everywhere else. So let's continue with our setup. We've finished authentication. We're happy with that, right? That's probably the part that honestly took me the longest to work out. So let's go to security. Pretty straightforward. You can set maximum login attempts, inactivity timers, all that sort of stuff. That's really personal preference, and it's completely up to you. One thing I'll explain with Organizer is it has obviously different roles, different ranks. And if I was to click this, it starts by default from guest to user, power user, super user, co-admin, and admin. So most of the things that you configure in Organizer, you will need to select what level of access a person must have in order to get access to that feature. And you can change the names of all this, the icons. Let's go to performance. Couple of options here, nothing too crazy. It just saves you a little bit of CPU. Go to login. So in here, you have the option for your registration. So people can register to sign up to your site. Now this works in some cases. If you want Organizer to manage all this, that's fine. In my case, all my users come from FreeIPA, so I don't really want people registering. So I'll click hide registration, click save. And the registration password is the one we set earlier. And this sets a password form on the login screen. So when you want someone to register, you can set this password so that they have to have the password in order to be able to register to the site. Pretty cool. Auth proxy. This is where you can set settings if you want to use NGINX to pass headers through and allow someone to log in using their headers. I won't be covering that today, but if you know what you're doing, that's where you would be looking for that setting. Then finally, you have your ping settings here. So if you want to set up pings to certain URLs, this is where you can configure what the pings look like and who has access. So all the main stuff is done, guys. We'll go to single sign-on. Now this is one of the best features of Organizer. If you configure all this, it will allow you to have a single sign-on solution to a lot of these different apps. So Plex, for example, all you have to do is click Get Plex Token. Put your details in for Plex. It will grab the token for you. Next, click Get the Plex Machine. So it needs a token first, obviously. It'll fill that in for you. Then put your admin username and then click Enable. Make sure you always click Save. Once you do that, it will pull all the users you have if you want it to. It will sync everything with Plex and it will allow single sign-on to Plex. So fill that in, and like I said, anything you fill in the settings tab, you know, if there's other areas that need your Plex information, it will pull it from here. So this is the best place to set it. Then you've got Tortuli to set the same thing, Overseer for your requests, Ombi, and Jellyfin. Alright, all a similar thing. So if you set all this up properly, it will allow single sign-on functionality. So just remember to read what the imprint here is. In this case, asking for your host name and a port. So put your local addresses in here. Whereas in this field, it's asking for your fully qualified domain name. So put your domain, whether it's request.ibracorp.org, for example. Then along the top, we've got logs. Pretty handy if you're trying to troubleshoot stuff. So I can see that test has logged in, for example, and whether it was successful or denied. Any updates and what was included in the updates, which is pretty cool. A backup function, so useful for you guys if you want to back this up every few weeks, once a month, you know, every 2 months, whatever. It's good idea to just make a backup. So if I just click that, you know, how easy was that? I click backup, and then you just download it, and it saves all your configuration settings, which is pretty cool. And then you donate, guys. Couldn't offer a better opportunity for you guys to donate to this developer. If you like what they're doing, I highly recommend donating to him. I believe it's just one man doing all the work, and he's been doing it for years. So please consider donating if you enjoy the product. Definitely worth every cent. So there's your main settings done, finished. Now you can get into the fun stuff if you like, which is setting up plugins, you know, customizing your appearance. So let's start with plugins. We'll work our way back here. By default, nothing is active. If we go to inactive, we've got a couple of different options. So what this one is here, chat, you can basically, it says what it is. It's a chat, guys. You can allow it to open a chat window and members of your website can speak with each other. Health checks, also self-explanatory. Basically checks your health of links and of your server. A lot of people don't really use it, I don't think, but it's there. Media invites is pretty cool. When it works, it has a integration with Plex, so that you can basically use Organizer to send your invites to people, and it will then invite them on Plex as well. And it allows you to customize the invitation so you can have your own branding on it instead of just coming from Plex, which I think is pretty cool. It also lets them sign in and invites them to your actual Organizer instance too. Your PHP mailer. Now, if you watch my video on creating a domain email address in Gmail, you can use those details here in PHP mailer so that you can send from Organizer emails that you can format and have them look really nice. You know, maybe you want to send like a newsletter every month. You can use PHP mailer for that. I don't think it's the best option if you want to look for a corporate solution, in which case you wouldn't be using Organizer as a personal account. You'd be using a business one. But the option is there, and I actually still use it, so it's pretty useful. And speed test, I think everyone knows what speed test is, so I don't really need to explain that. Go into marketplace, and you've got a couple of other options there too. Alright, but I'm not going to cover those. It's not really part of your first getting started. With your image manager, this is where you can upload logos of things that you use that may not be by default in here. And pretty simple, just click the little arrow and drag and drop your files, or click and select it, and it'll add it to your server. You can do it through your Windows Explorer if you want to go directly to where you've got Organizer running, but I highly recommend just uploading it here. And if you just click on an image, guys, I'll show you how to get the image to go anywhere else. So if you just click on an image and you just copy to clipboard, it takes the link for you so you can put it elsewhere, and I'll show you that in a moment. User management. Again, this is where you can add users manually if you like. What groups they are in, and you can customize the groups. So this is the default groups, you can see. And you can edit them. So if you edit them, you can change what image. So again, like I said, with images, you can change what the default image is for the group. As you can see, we can have it look like that with the image that we just copied. Now, I'm not going to do that, but you can do that. And then you have the import function. So when you have Plex sync option enabled, it will then pull it from there. Let's have a look at customize. And this is where you can really make it your own. So in here, it's going to ask you for logo. You can put a URL to a particular logo if you want to upload it to Imgur, or you can upload it to your image manager here and link that one. and then you just put that in there. You can use a logo instead of title. So for example, if I click save and then we refresh, you can see now it's using our logo image instead of just text. The title of the page, as you can see in the tab, Organizer V2, you can change it to whatever you like. Call that IBRACORP. Fresh, and there you go, IBRACORP. You've also got your meta description. Now, this is used for SEO, so Google search will crawl for this sort of stuff. So make it something useful for your page if you have something that you're trying to market or just want more people to know about what it is. Fill it out correctly, okay? Put a nice little explanation, a little description of what it is that your website's about. Got your login page options here, again, where your logo could go. A wallpaper, so if you want to put a wallpaper, put the direct image in here. If you go on Imgur and you have a wallpaper of your own, just upload it to Imgur. I'll show you that real quick. Here we go, we found this image that we obviously have the copyright permissions for. Make sure it's an image that you have or you're going to give credit for. So you can just copy the image location and head back to Organizer, paste it in there and click save. Now if I'm back on our main page and I log out, there's our wallpaper. We can now see that. You can also have a minimal login screen, so it'll hide a couple of things, logo instead of a title. And you have more and more options, guys. So if you wanted to hide some of this stuff, I recommend keeping it there just to give the developer some exposure, but he gives you the option to hide it, which is pretty cool. Then you have the analytics tracking ID, and you can customize your themes. Now in the marketplace, which is just up here, you can actually pick themes that are pre-built for you. You can just click install. And if I head back to appearance, colors and themes, under theme we'll now see that option. And for a click of a button, it'll change the entire theme of the site. But you also have the option to do your own. So we'll get to that shortly. Notifications. You want to change the way your notifications look. You can see. I really like this easy one. This is the default one anyway. Your favicon, so if you follow these instructions as he's written them here, you'll be able to have your favicon just like in the top tab there, and your custom CSS. So if you look online, custom CSS Organizer, you'll find a whole bunch of stuff that people have made that are willing to share, and you can really customize the look of your site. Same goes for the theme, and you've got JavaScript. Then we'll come back to the tab editor. This is the main function of Organizer. It's what makes it an organizer. So by default, this is what you've got to work with. All right, we've got settings, we've got home page. Now there's nothing really here yet. So let's say we want to put our overseer in here. Let's click add. And it's going to ask you for a tab name. I'm going to call that overseer. Then the URL. The local URL if you have a local address, and if you want to have the ping option turned on, you can put the local address in the port. And what sort of auto actions you want. Pick an image. Now I know that Overseer has one already in here in Organizer, so we can just pick that. But if it doesn't, again go back to the image section and add one. Then hit test. As you can see, it tells you to be set as an iframe. If you can't set as an iframe, it'll be in red and it'll say can't be set as an iframe. So we'll leave that and click add. Now we've got our first tab. By default, it'll be inactive, so we'll just hit active. It'll also give you the option on what is the default page people land on once they open up your site or log into the site. So let's say the home page, we want the home page to be the default. But I also don't really like the fact that the settings is at the top. So what I can do is just click and drag, move it to the bottom. Make sure we click save. Also activate the home page. And you can see the categories. Now, we just go to categories real quick. We don't have any categories, just unsorted. So maybe you want one called admin and click add. Now we've got one called admin. Go back to NGINX Manager again. Back to tab editor and categories, and we'll call this one requests. Now we've got two categories here. Go back to tabs. So the categories can also be changed in order. So perhaps you want the unsorted to be below. And you might want it to look like that. Go back to your tabs. And with overseer, we'll say that's part of our request category. So we'll mark it as requests. We want anyone on the user level as a minimum to have access. And we're happy for it to open as an iframe. For the settings options, we want that in the admin section. And we want only co-admins to have access. And it's a pre-built inside Organizer page, so we just leave that as is. Now if we refresh our page, and we look down the left-hand side, we can see our options here. We've got admin, and we've got requests. And we've also got our home page, which is nothing on there yet. For me personally, I like to have my admin stuff set below anything else. So what I'll do is put admin down here, and it will save it. So that's how you add a tab, guys. It's not really hard. If I was to go and click on overseer, what you're seeing is it open up in an iframe. So it's opened it up within Organizer, which is pretty cool, right? You can have a whole bunch of stuff and be able to access it all in one place. I'll go back to settings, tabs, and you have a look and you notice that the type is set to iframe. Now, if some things won't work in iframe, it may need a new window. So if I set that to new window and we refresh, and I try to open it, it'll open it in a new tab for us. Go back to settings again, tab editor, and leave it as an iframe. Now we can work on our home page. We've got our tabs, we know how to work that out. Let's look at our home page. What you're looking at here is a whole bunch of stuff that is natively integrated with Organizer and can appear on your home page. So you can set up all sorts of stuff. And like I said, if you set these settings up in system settings, it will pull that information for a lot of these things. For example, Plex or Jellyfin or Toolie. So if we were to open that and we go through each tab, a lot of this will be filled in for us already. In my case, I didn't set that up in settings, so that's why it's empty. But you'll need to go through and just make sure it all works, okay? So you can click enable, minimum authentication, so a user can see it. Here's your URL, your token, and your machine name, which is pulled from settings. So here you can have active streams. If someone's playing something, do you want it to show on your home page? You can click enable. Who's allowed to see that someone's watching something? Maybe users are allowed. But I want to see who's actually playing, the name of the user. I'll enable that. Maybe I don't want everybody to be able to see other people's information, so I'll leave that as admin. You can have a recent items section, a media search option, playlists, etc, etc. And then at the end you can test your connection and see if it works. Make sure you always save. Same goes for all of this. So if I was just to go to weather, for example, just because it's going to be the easiest to set up, I said users can see it. Type in where you are. And click save. We can have air quality, we can have the title, we can have enable weather, pollen, and how often to refresh, and what unit of measurement. So save that. And let's refresh. Go to our homepage. So now on our homepage, you can see we've got our new module and it's loaded perfectly fine. The other thing you'll notice is that the theme that you select, any custom CSS, is also applied to all these modules. So they'll try to match your theme and color schemes, which is really cool. So that's pretty simple. That's pretty simple right there. And you can do that for basically all of these guys. So for example, iCal, if you linked your Sonar and Radar, it will pull what the next movie and show is expected to download and what day expected to show up. You also have 2 custom HTML tabs. And you can put whatever code you want in here and set it to the permission you want. So you can have one showing anything just for admins, and you can have one showing anything just for users. Then if you go to homepage order, you can click and drag everything in here to the order that you like. So you might have certain things higher than others on your homepage. And then just remember to click save. So guys, just for getting started, that's pretty much it, right? You can go launching straight into this and get started using that. One final thing I'll show you is we now want to make this our homepage, right? So why not just open NGINX Proxy Manager. We've done our videos on this before. Now we're actually missing one just for our homepage. We've got all these subdomains, but what about IBRACORP.org? Well, in here we can just go the SSL certificate. Remember, I've done a video on all of this already, and click save. There's your main page. We're in our Cloudflare account, and you can see that the first thing we've set up is an A record, and that was to get us started to start with. So that's already working. So back in NGINX Proxy Manager, we'll just click the link. And there you go. So you basically have your own website ready to go now. And it's protected with login, of course, and we're using LDAP authentication. So you've got the whole process set up in one video. Anything else from this point is customization and preferences. And I think you'll find a lot of resources on that, guys. So I'm not going to bother sort of stepping into that realm. But I hope you found this useful and helped show you how to get the LDAP going. If you need any help, if you want any more information, or if you have any suggestions for future videos, please let me know. Don't forget to like and subscribe. It really helps the channel out. We'll see you in the next IBRACORP video. Cheers.